Mr. Qualls, how are you?
I'm well, Tom. Thanks for having me back.
All right, so I owe you dinner, man. We were going to go to dinner, and I still owe you dinner, so get ready. You're going to have to put up with me at dinner one night.
Oh, that'd be great.
All right, we get it done. You know, I'm a big fan, to tell you the truth, Kendall Qualls. You're a really decent person. If you don't mind, I want to talk a lot about TakeCharge Minnesota, no question, but would you give us your background a bit more? Because succeeding in America is a very, very important thing to me, succeeding in the world, and you didn't have the easiest path. So just quickly, if you would talk about your background before we move on. I love your story. If you don't mind, if you don't want to tell your story, we can just talk about TakeCharge Minnesota, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, well, that's a great place to start. I tell people, I didn't realize it until, 5 years after I earned my second master's degree that I could have been successful in this country without those graduate degrees because I already had a PhD. And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I was poor, hungry, and determined.
Love it.
In this country, 75% of that is that fire in your belly to be successful, to have a drive to be successful. And yes, you need an education. You need a certification for training or something. But the number one is you got to have that desire to better yourself, for your family, and everything. So for me, I spent part of my childhood growing up in Harlem, New York. My parents had divorced, and lived part of my life with my mother in Harlem in the late 1960s, early 70s, when it was the epicenter of drugs, violence, gangs, everything.
Yep.
And then, God bless her, she just couldn't raise all five of us by herself. My older brothers and sisters were getting absorbed into the street culture. And my father, who was still on active duty, he was a drill sergeant, came and got me and my younger brother to live with him in Oklahoma. And because he was paying alimony and child support, all he could afford was a trailer. We lived in a trailer park. So that was my start in life, a ghetto kid. That's what I've been called, a ghetto kid, trailer trash, and a lot worse. But like I said, in this country, where you start in life does not mean that's where you have to stay in life.
I love that, and that's why I do connect with you so well. Now, Kendall and I've never met in person, talked several times, but I cannot wait to sit down, have a little dinner with our wives, or we can take the families or whatever you want to do, because you, as a black man in America today from Harlem, New York, me as a white guy from Minnesota, very similar upbringing, as a matter of fact. Dad in and out of the picture, that whole situation, very, very poor, called, like you said, ghetto boy. I was called white trash in my life. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. That's why I'm such a big fan. And that's why I do want to talk to you about mission of TakeCharge Minnesota. How did it start? Where are we going with it, Kendall?
Yeah, so Tom, look, I never wanted to be a politician. Was not on my bucket list. I felt a need to serve our country, so a different example for elected officials. And obviously that wasn't the path that was meant for me, and I didn't prevail in the last election. However, after that election, I can't tell you how many supporters were so grateful that I ran, supporting me in all my efforts. I actually received more votes in the district than Donald Trump did, 5% more votes.
Right.
As a candidate to outperform the top of the ticket says I was reaching more people in the district than just the base of Republican voters. So I was encouraged not to go away, find some way to solve some problems locally for us. And, I have a desire for this because I grew up in, like I said, in a broken home. And TakeCharge Minnesota is focused on and dedicated to proving that the American dream still works for everyone, including Black Americans. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to demonstrate. And we're going to recruit some special ambassadors to help spread the message that, in the Black community, we've had enough help from government, from politicians, and we're going to return back to our cultural roots of faith, family, and education, dedicated to a God-centered life. And what's so nice about the timing of this, is that this Monday is Martin Luther King holiday.
Yes, sir.
And during his time period, during his life and my early life, in the Black community, 75% of families were two-parent families. And I can't tell you how many people that I met on the campaign trail, black and white, had no idea it was that high.
Yeah, right.
It has moved from 75% back in the 60s, early 70s, to roughly about 10% in Hennepin County today. And that's tragic.
That was at the direction of our national politicians at the time, that if you were going to collect any benefits at all, the father could not live in the house. One of the dumbest ideas in history. Yes,
and it had a cascading effect. And you know what we have to be concerned about as Americans is that behavioral policy is actually spreading beyond the black community.
Oh yeah,
today, today, first time in American history, over 50% of births to women 30 and below, to unmarried women, and that's a cultural impact that we haven't had in our country. But for me, and what I'm going to do specifically is look, the black community didn't used to live like this. Again, we're going to return to our cultural roots, and I'm not going to be the one to do it. I'm going to recruit some of the best people in the world that can do that for us, and that's called moms and grandmoms. Mothers change the world, and I'm going to recruit people that understand that we didn't used to live like this. They're going to educate and encourage the culture to return to its historical roots, and we're going to do that through I call it my M3 plan: mothers, market, media, and marketing.
You know, you just gave me a wonderful memory of being a little boy running down Plymouth Avenue, going to St. Joseph's School and all the rest of it, having a wonderful time. And the one person you did not mess with was Big Mama. And not many people know who Big Mama is, but I bet you do. We loved her, though. Who's ever Big Mama it was. Big Mama is basically a grandmother in general, usually living by herself. But she made the rules, and the sweetest, most loving, wonderful people. They give you a hug, and they would go, "Tom, stop acting like that." And you go, "Yes, ma'am." You got it. It was those are wonderful memories for me, Kendall. They really are. I love those memories.
Well, you know what? Those things can be restored, and just grounding Americans on what made us a special country, what made our community special, were families. And I think we've relied on a lot of institutions, despite ourselves, actually. And so here's what I'm going to do. We're going to have those profiles, mothers and grandmothers, helping to drive that. We're going to put together video vignettes. We're going to use them in the community. We're going to have profiles of success. So right now, today, in Minneapolis, we have schools like Hope Academy, Crystal Ray.
Yeah, yep.
Some of these really faith-based schools that they've been around for 20 years, graduating kids, and we have alumni now that are buying homes for the first time. We're going to have a profiles of success and highlighting those kids, what were the foundational values that helped them succeed, and make sure that information gets back to kids and permeate that information throughout Minneapolis and around the state. And then lastly, you know what, this is something that most people just don't realize. There's a lot of very generous, and I'll just classify as white people that help provide scholarships to many of these kids for decades. But you know what? Their character is associated with, I'm not going to brag about it or boast about it. That's just my character won't allow me to do that. My faith doesn't allow me to do that.
Right.
But guess what? I can do it. We're going to develop video vignettes again, little short videos, showing the generosity, the love for humanity that these people have. Because unfortunately, the only YouTube videos that we see today are either white cops shooting black kids, black people beating up on white kids. We never show the humanity of what happens in every day in our lives, and that's happening for decades. And I'm going to do profiles of those. So those three, grandmoms and moms, profiles of success of these kids that are actually doing the right things and succeeding. And then lastly, the generosity of Americans for their fellow man.
You know, Kendall, I hope we do get to a point someday. And what's funny about this is every time I talk to basically a group of white people about it, I get called a racist for saying this. But it is true that we use skin color in this country. Black people are being used. White people are being used. Poor white people are being used for other people to make money. It's like a human shield kind of thing. And I'm disgusted by it. I really am.
Well, I am as well. And we all should be disgusted, because here's the scenario. Again, we didn't used to live like this as Black Americans.
Nope.
And yes, we were poor for material things, but all through the 1900s and through the 50s and 60s, when we were a systemic racist country, because we had sanctioned segregation. We haven't had that for 60 years. And here's the most ironic thing in the world. We have people. I always say that African Americans are doing very good in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about Nigerians, others, that these people with black skin, they have a choice to immigrate to any country they want. I'm talking those not from refugee camps, but those that can go to Australia, Canada, any country. They choose to come here.
Yep.
Despite the narrative that we hear from in the media about how racist this country is, and you have to be so careful because it's a racist country. They choose to come here, and they earn 17% more than the average American.
God, it's amazing. What a story.
And to your point, look, these guys using race to divide us has nothing but handicapped the Black culture for 50 years.
True.
They haven't prospered, but the political class has done very, very well.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Mr. Qualls, right there. But again, as a white man in America today, if I talk like that, it's white people, black people don't. Oh, that's kind of racist. No, it's not racist in the least. People are being used. Poor people in America. I don't care. First of all, let me say this. And it's very, very true. Why would I possibly care what your skin color is, your sex orientation is, your gender is? I don't care. As long as you're a good person, that's all I need, right?
That's exactly right. And what you just described right there is where the vast majority of Americans are.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We don't hear from them, though.
No,
they don't get the TV time.
Right. And the knuckleheads that wind up saying something or doing something, and they point to them as the rule, and in reality, they're nothing but the exception.
That is true. The one thing I already know that Kendall Qualls, our guest, and I have in common when we go and have that dinner is I've heard from all sides that both your wife and my wife are far too good for us. That's what I've heard, Kendall. So there it is right there.
Yeah, that's right. They said, my friend just said, you definitely married up. I said, no, you're wrong. I married 2 clicks up.
Not just 1, but 2. It's absolutely true. I cannot wait to spend more time talking to you. One thing I do need, if you don't mind, because I did have your phone number, but I had some changes on my phone and it erased about half my phone number. So I'm going to get your number from Candace, if you don't mind, and I will give you a call in the next couple of days. Is that all right?
That's great, Tom. Would love that. And just for your listeners, if they want to learn more, they can go to our website. It's at TakeChargeMN.com, TakeChargeMikeNovember.com.
I would love to work with you on this, and it would be an honor if I could just narrate at least one of the videos you were talking about. I'd like to narrate at least one of them just to do a part, if that's all right with you.
That'd be great. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be cool.
We'll get it done. Thank you for your time today, sir.
You bet, Tom. Take care.
Have a good day.
God bless.
Bye.